Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun with Benzion. Today's daf is Kesubos, and I saw. It's very interesting. I saw this app, all daf app. They had an article in an advertisement in Mishpacha magazine. The all daf 2.0. They allow daf Yomi share. They're probably missing one very important share that they don't have on there. My share. I believe it's powered by ArtScroll. Maybe I'm wrong. The way they spell Kesubos in English is Kesuvos, right? Kesubos, that's more yeshivish, right? But I'm like, wow, this is powered by ArtScroll. I thought ArtScroll always said Kesubos, and I wrote Kesubos when I uploaded my shir. But here it is, the proof. If you want proof over here, the correct way to write it. I know it's backwards here, but you can clearly see there's a B over there. Kesubos. It's supposed to be spelled Kesubos, not Kesuvos. So I don't know. The world becomes firmer and firmer every day. But even ArtScroll themselves, when they put out the sefer, they wrote a Kesubos. Correct way of saying it, Kesuba, right? The singular, there's Kesuba. Plural would be Kesubos. I don't know where Kesuvos came on. Kesuba. That's how you pronounce it. Anyway, back to the shir. Benzion today, we have halacha, an unusual circumstance that they're about to get married, and the father of the chassid dies, and the mother of the kala dies, right? And you don't want to lose the whole meal, and you don't want to lose all the wedding dress and all the makeup and the dresses that they bought for the kala. The mother was responsible for buying for her daughter, so you go get married right away. Now the problem is that, right, you have a vela. So what you do is you put the dead person in a separate room. Let them go get married. Let them have that night to be together. Bol bilas mitzvah. And then you have 7 Yemei Mishta and then 7 Yemei Avelos after that. So the question over here is that fine, right? You can do bilas mitzvah like the Gemara says on the Dalam and Beis. There's no problem. You're in aninas at that point. The Isra of Tashmish Amita Midaraisa is only by Avelos, and Avelos only starts when you bury the person. So you didn't bury the person. So there's no problem technically of bilas mitzvah. The Kula, the Gemara says at the end of Daf Dalam and Beis, that they were knowing over here is that they let the Zayin Yemei Mishta precede the Zayin Yemei Avelos. How could that be, right? They're bol bilas mitzvah. Then they bury the person. It doesn't say that, but that's what happened. They bury the dead person. You can't leave him not buried. You bury him, and then you have Sheva brachos, and then 7 days of Avelos. So the obvious question is that we know that Sheva Yemei Avelos, even though really the 7 days they're up on him, but the first day, this clearly is Daraisa, the Gemara says. B'acharisa kiyomar, the Gemara says, the first day of Avelos is Daraisa. The day you bury the person is Midin Daraisa. Zayin Yemei Mishta is not Daraisa. There's no way Zayin Mishta is Daraisa. There is an opinion. Most poskim say Zayin Mishta is not Daraisa. I mean, all you do is make Sheva brachos, right? When you have a meal, a festive meal, you say Sheva brachos. That's all the halachas basically Zayin Yemei Mishta. Those are Takana Derabanan. Those are not Midoraisa. There is a rush that says maybe the first day Yom Chasunaso, Shlomo HaMelech said Yom Simchas Libo is the day of your wedding is Del Raisa. But first of all, it's not the day of your wedding anymore, right? You got married last night, and then your Bol Bilas Mitzvah, Porish. I mean, when exactly that day ends? I mean, when does it start? When does it end? Not so clear. So how could the Zayin Yemei Avelos be pushed off? Del Raisa against the Rabbanon. So what you'll tell me? You'll tell me that the Chum were Oker Davar Min Torah B'Shev Al Tasa. Chum said, even though there's Avelos Del Raisa, where we Oker that, we'll push it off. Right? We'll be Oker. You can't be Oker Davar B'Kum Ve'Esei. The Avelos creates Isurim. Now, even though Isurim are only Isur Esei, or Akizikli Omar is an essay to be Noeg Avelos, but the Kum Ve'Esei to violate halachas of Avelos, even though the Gemara says B'Tzina, they were keeping the Avelos, but if it comes to be for Heska, you have to be put on a happy face, and you have to violate the Isser essay of Avelos. And the Gemara is clear in Ivamos, in the Sugya on Peches to Daf Sadi about Kum Ve'essay, that even an Isser essay, if you do Bekum Ve'essay, it has a lot of problem. The only time they would do it is the Migdar Milsa, right, to set a precedent where it was going to ruin Klal Yisrael, Eliyahu Carmel, to build a Bama, to offer Mizbeach on a Bama. We don't do that normally, so how could it be over here? That's the question over here that I've been grappling with for years. Finally, I have an answer, and it's based on a topic that is prominent in my mind now, because hopefully I'll be having an interview about this, about Shana Rishona. Shana Rishona, if you don't know what it is, the first year of your marriage. What is the makor behind Shana Rishona? Now, don't tell my guest because I asked him and he thinks that Shana Rishona is like a hashkafic thing. Like, if you want to get your marriage off on a solid basis, you start off with the first good year. People think Shana Rishona, you should have shalom bayis. You should be together a lot. But if you look in the Torah, that's not the basis of Shana Rishona. The basis of Shana Rishona is a mitzvah in the Torah, v'simach hasishto. You're supposed to make your wife happy the first year. It's not that you should have shalom bayis and things should be equal. The husband has an obligation, 100 to 0, like I say about marriage, 100 to 0. The husband is responsible to make his wife happy. Not the wife is responsible to make her husband happy. People think shalom bayis, they should both make each other happy. No. You got it all wrong. But either way, there's a mitzvah d'oraisa, v'simach hasishto. When does the simach hasishto start? When does it start? That starts, there's two parts to marriage. There's nisuin, we call it nisuin. It literally means to carry. You carry her onto the chuppah. Under the chuppah might be nisuin, but really it means, in the Goyish world, they have this concept where you carry her the threshold to your apartment or threshold to the bedroom, right? To be under the canopy, right? The first bia ideally should be under a canopy bed, if you know what a canopy bed is. It's like a bed with a chuppah on top of it. I mean, that's right, you carry her into bed. The actual bia itself, right, is more than nisuin. It's actually bilas mitzvah. Like here, bilas mitzvah. It's a bia that enables the mitzvah. Tosafos says bilas mitzvah is because now they're connected to each other and they're able to do puravu. But that sounds like a hechsher mitzvah puravu. Bilas mitzvah is something which creates baal v'ishto, husband and wife, which causes the onset, right? Simach ishto, not just isha, ishto, his wife, baal v'ishto. Now you have a mitzvah d'oraisa v'simach ishto. That's why Bo Bilas Mitzvah Porish. That's why they felt it necessary to Bo Mitzvah Pirish, Shita Megabet's this. Why do they have to do it? They're just worried about losing the meal. Just let them do the chuppah. And then, forget about Bilas Mitzvah Porish. No, Bilas Mitzvah Porish is necessary because this halacha, which is one of the Shita Megabet's answers. He doesn't explain it well. He explains because the idea is that you have to have a Simach Zisha, which is the Mitzvah D'Oraisa now of making her happy. And even though Sheva Baruch Hu holding Rabbanon, but part of the mitzvah of Sheva Brachos, you also are b'mekayim v'simach zisha. So therefore, simach zisha precedes the 7 days of Mishnah, precede the Avelus. You're not going to abrogate the Avelus at all because you need to be noag Avelus. But which comes first? Now the question still remains: simach zisha is only mitzvah's essay, and the isser Avelus of going against the Avelus and doing isurim during Avelus for Hesia is an isser essay. An isser essay is more chamor than a mitzvah essay. To that I want to say like this, that there's two parts. When we say ein koach yadcham la'akor davar min Torah b'kum be'ezeh, it doesn't mean because it's d'oraisa the Rabbanan don't have the ability to abrogate it, because we know they do. Because Shev al Tas, that's mitzvah to shake lulav on the first day. They said if it's Shabbos, you don't shake lulav. So they do have the koach to cancel mitzvahs d'oraisa. And also I would like to say, because we know from Eliyahu Bahar Carmel in certain instances, they do have the opinion, they do have the ability to abrogate even to go against the Torah, to tell you do an Aveira. Do an Aveira. They have the ability to do that. They're going to have the behavior, right? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he did an Isser. You're not supposed to write down the Torah. He wrote down the Torah. They have the cuff. They're just not willing to do it. But if it's a really Shas Chak, like the Migdar Milsa, like the Gemara says, like it's causing a ruin in Klal Yisrael, it's going to ruin Judaism, it's going to uproot the whole concept of Judaism, it's really extenuating circumstances, then they have the ability to do that. So here also, even though one is an Isra essay and one is a Mitzvah essay, and they'll be telling you to violate something B'kum essay, here it's not as significant, because if it's just a Derabanan, so then we're going to say B'kum because a reason Derabanan will tell you to do something B'kum essay. That's not justified. But here, where you have a Mitzvah essay, V'simach Ishto, contrasting with an Isra essay, so that's not such a big jump to say, go ahead and violate the Avelus, because at the same time, while you're violating the Avelus, you're also doing a mitzvah's essay. So it's not as severe. So that's like we said, they have the ability, they always have the ability, and even though normally they won't use it, that's only where there's no legitimate reason to write it. But if there's a legitimate reason to write it, to do a mitzvah's essay, then they would tell you to do an Isser essay, or we say that the 7 Zayin Mei Mishnah precedes the Zayin Mei Avelus. That would be the share for today. Hope you enjoyed. See you tomorrow.